I worked at a high-end restaurant in Tokyo. An American couple came in, and the husband, after looking at the menu, called me over. He said, "My wife and I are big foodies. We want the most authentic experience you can offer." I recommended the omakase, the chef's tasting menu. When the first course, a delicate piece of sea urchin, arrived, he stared at it and said, "Okay, appetizer's done. Can we get the sushi now? You know, the California rolls and the spicy tuna." I had to gently explain that California rolls were an American invention and not part of a traditional omakase. My friend is a train conductor in Switzerland. He told me about an American family who got on the train to the Jungfrau, one of the highest peaks. The father, wearing shorts and a t-shirt, asked my friend, "So how long until we get to the top?" "We're planning a little hike and a picnic." My friend looked at the snow-covered peak, visible through the window, and replied, "Sir, it is 10 degrees Celsius at the summit. You are going to an alpine glacier." The man looked genuinely shocked, as if he expected the Swiss Alps to have the same climate as a California beach. I was in a pub in rural Ireland when a group of American tourists came in. One of them went to the bar and said, "I'll have an Irish car bomb." The old bartender, whose brother had been killed in the Troubles, slowly put down the glass he was cleaning, leaned forward and said with a dead serious tone, "You'll have a what?" The tourist repeated it, clueless. The bartender just pointed to the door and said, "Get out, now!" The tourist's friends had to drag him out, still confused about what he'd done wrong. I overheard this at a pharmacy in Paris. An American woman was trying to buy melatonin. The pharmacist explained it's only available by prescription in France. The woman got indignant and said, "But that's ridiculous. I can buy a giant bottle of it at Costco back home. It's a natural supplement." The pharmacist replied, "Madam, arsenic is also a natural supplement. Here, things that alter your body's chemistry are regulated by doctors." The woman stormed out, muttering about socialist healthcare. An American businessman was sitting next to me on a flight to Frankfurt. He was loudly telling his colleague about his strategy. "The key to winning over the Germans is confidence. You got to be loud, show them who's boss. They're a very reserved culture, so you have to break them out of their shell with some good old American energy." He then proceeded to greet the German flight attendant by slapping her on the back and yelling, "How's it going, sweetheart?" The woman looked like she wanted to eject him from the plane mid-flight. I was managing a small hotel in Florence during the summer. An American guest called the front desk in a panic. "My air conditioner is broken. It's blowing out warm air." I went up to his room to check. The AC was working perfectly. I explained, "Sir, you have it set to 22 degrees Celsius, which is about 72 Fahrenheit. It feels warm because it's 38 degrees outside." He looked at me, completely serious, and asked, "Can't you just make the outside colder?" At a cafe in Copenhagen, a city famous for its cycling culture, an American tourist was complaining to his wife, "I don't get it. The traffic is terrible, but it's all bikes. Why don't these people just buy cars? It's so much more efficient. It's like they're living in the past." His wife nodded in agreement, while a city council member, who happened to be sitting at the next table, just sipped his coffee and smiled. I was on a guided tour of the pyramids in Egypt. An American in the group asked the guide, "So how many dinosaurs died to build these things?" There was a full 10 seconds of stunned silence before the guide, a PhD in Egyptology, managed to stammer out, "Sir, the dinosaurs were extinct for 65 million years before the pyramids were built." The man just shrugged and said, "Huh, seemed like something they'd used dinosaurs for." A young American couple was in front of me, in line at a bakery in Lisbon, famous for its pastéis de nata. The woman ordered one, took a bite, and her eyes lit up. She turned to her boyfriend and said, "Oh my God, this is amazing. It's like a gourmet Pop-Tart." The baker, a man who had been using his family's 100-year-old recipe, looked physically pained. I witnessed an American trying to return a souvenir in a small shop in Scotland. He slammed a kilt on the counter and said, "I'd like a refund. This is defective." The shop owner asked what was wrong with it. The American replied, "It doesn't have any pockets. Where am I supposed to put my wallet and my phone? This is the stupidest design for a skirt I've ever seen." In a quiet onsen, hot spring in Japan, where the rules of silence and tranquility are sacred, an American man was talking on his phone via speaker. He was yelling, "Yeah, I'm in the nude hot tub with a bunch of old Japanese dudes. It's wild, bro." Several patrons left the bath. An employee had to come in and politely ask him to respect the customs, which he seemed to think was a suggestion, not a rule. An American student studying abroad in Italy told our group he was going to drive to Sicily for the afternoon. When we explained that Sicily is a large island and you need to take a ferry, and that the drive from our location in northern Italy would take over 15 hours one way, he was baffled. "It doesn't look that far on the map. In Texas, you can drive for 15 hours and you're still in Texas." I was working at a currency exchange in London. An American came to my window and asked, "Can I get some of your money?" I said, "Certainly, pounds sterling." He looked at me and said, "No, I want the old-timey stuff. You know, with the Queen on it. Not that new euro crap." I had to explain to him that the UK has never used the euro and the Queen has been on our currency for decades. Overheard on a bus in Sydney, Australia, American tourist. 1. I'm so disappointed. We've been here for 3 days and I haven't seen a single kangaroo hopping down the street. American tourist 2. I know. And nobody says, "G'day, mate," or "shrimp on the barbie." It's like they're not even trying to be Australian. A customer at the English bookstore I work at asked if we had a non-fiction section. I pointed him towards it. He came back a few minutes later looking annoyed. "I can't find anything. Where are the books about Harry Potter? I want to read the real history of the wizards and Hogwarts." He was in his late 20s and completely serious. In a restaurant in southern Spain, an American family was upset that the kitchen was closed at 4 p.m. The father complained to the waiter, "But this is a normal time to eat. We want a late lunch." The waiter tried to explain the concept of the siesta and that the kitchen would reopen for dinner at 8 p.m. The American replied, "Well, in America, the customer is always right and I want a steak now." I was on a tour of a historic cathedral in Prague. An American woman asked the guide where the kids' zone was. The guide was confused. She elaborated, "You know, a place with colouring pages and maybe some videos to keep the children entertained while the adults look at the boring church stuff." The guide just said, "Madam, this is a 600-year-old house of God, not a museum with a daycare." An American tourist in a Thai market was haggling over a small trinket. The price was 50 baht, which is about 150 sald. He argued with the elderly female vendor for 10 minutes, insisting she was ripping him off. He finally got her to lower the price to 40 baht, saving himself about 30 cents. He then walked away proudly, saying to his friend, "You just have to know how to play the game." My cousin from Idaho visited me in London. We got on the tube and he was amazed. "Wow, this is great. It's so clean and efficient." Then he asked, "So who owns it? Is it a private company, the government?" I explained it's run by Transport for London, a public entity. He looked horrified. "You mean this is socialism? But it works so well." At a winery in the Bordeaux region of France, the sommelier was giving a detailed explanation of the terroir and the grape's flavour profile. After a long, passionate speech, an American in the group raised his hand and asked, "That's great, but do you have anything that's like a sweet red? Maybe something like a Merlot, but with a fruitier, sweeter finish, like a grown-up Welch's grape juice." The sommelier's soul left his body. I was hiking in the Canadian Rockies when I met an American couple on the trail. They were looking at a glacier. The woman asked me, "Excuse me, do you know if this is a natural glacier, or is it man-made for the tourists?" I was so stunned by the question that I just said, "It's natural," and walked away before my brain could process it further. An American in my hostel in Amsterdam was complaining that he couldn't find any normal bread. Everything here is dark and full of seeds. I just want a loaf of regular white bread, like Wonder Bread. How do you people make sandwiches with this stuff? It's so heavy. He seemed genuinely distressed by the lack of processed fluffy bread. I was at a cafe in Vienna when an American family sat down. The father looked at the menu of elaborate cakes and pastries and called the waiter over. "Excuse me, do you guys have any brownies? Or maybe just a plain chocolate chip cookie? My kids are picky eaters." The waiter, standing in front of a display of Sacher Torte and Apfelstrudel, looked utterly defeated. A tourist at the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam was overheard saying to her husband, "It's a lot smaller than I imagined, and kind of a downer. They should really liven it up a bit, maybe add some more interactive exhibits." Her husband nodded, adding, "Yeah, a gift shop at the end would be nice too." I was working the desk at a hotel in Iceland. An American guest called down at 2 a.m. in the middle of summer. He was furious. "I demand a refund. The sun is still out. I can't sleep. This is a terrible hotel that doesn't even have a proper nighttime. You need to turn the sun off." I had to explain the concept of the midnight sun to a grown man. An American on a business trip in India was complaining to me about the traffic. "It's complete chaos. No one stays in their lanes. People are honking everywhere. Why don't they just follow the rules?" I replied, "These are the rules." He couldn't comprehend a system of organized chaos and was convinced the entire country had just decided not to learn how to drive properly. At a beautiful, serene temple in Kyoto, a group of American teenagers were trying to take a group selfie. One of them yelled at a monk who was silently praying, "Hey, Mr. Miyagi, can you get out of our shot? You're ruining the aesthetic." The monk didn't even flinch, but every other person in the vicinity cringed. I was on a train in Italy, and the conductor came by to check tickets. An American family hadn't validated their tickets in the machine on the platform. The conductor explained they had to pay a fine. The mother started yelling, "This is a scam! No one told us we had to get our tickets stamped. In America, a ticket is a ticket." She demanded to speak to the manager of the Italian National Railway system. An American tourist in a pub in Dublin asked the musician, who had just finished a beautiful, soulful ballad, "That was great. Do you know any Taylor Swift?" The musician just stared at him for a moment before launching into another 200-year-old folk song. I was in a grocery store in a small town in Norway. An American was holding a carton of eggs and looking completely bewildered. He asked the store clerk, "Why are these eggs not refrigerated? Are they safe to eat? In the US, all our eggs are in the cold section. This seems very unsanitary." The clerk had to explain different food safety standards regarding egg washing. A student in my history class at Oxford, who was from California, seriously asked the professor, "Why did England have so many kings and queens? It seems really inefficient. Wouldn't it have been easier to just elect a president? It's like they didn't even consider democracy." The professor, a world-renowned historian of the British monarchy, was speechless. Overheard at the Great Wall of China. "It's really impressive, but I don't see what the big deal is. It didn't even work, right? I mean, the Mongols still got in. Seems like a huge waste of money for a fence that didn't do its job." An American tourist in a cafe in Brazil ordered an espresso. When the small, strong cup arrived, he looked at it in disgust. "Excuse me, I ordered an espresso, not a sample. Can I get the rest of it in a normal-sized cup?" The barista tried to explain what an espresso is, but the man insisted he was being ripped off. I was working at a ski resort in the French Alps. An American guest complained that the snow was too cold and powdery. He said, "I'm used to the snow in Colorado, which is much heavier and better for skiing. Can't you guys, groom the mountain to make the snow better?" He thought we could change the weather and texture of the snow itself. An American couple on their honeymoon in Santorini, Greece, were complaining to their hotel manager. "We love the view, but all the buildings are white and blue. It's a little boring. Don't you have any other colours? It feels very one-note." They were complaining about the iconic, world-famous aesthetic they had specifically paid to see. I was on a boat tour of the Galapagos Islands. The naturalist guide was explaining the unique evolution of the finches. An American tourist interrupted him to ask, "That's all very interesting, but where are the monkeys? I thought all jungles had monkeys. This place is kind of a rip-off if there are no monkeys." The guide had to explain that monkeys are not native to the islands. An American in a German beer garden was served a beer with a large, thick head of foam. He called the waitress over and said, "Ma'am, you forgot to fill my beer all the way to the top. I'm paying for a full beer, not half a glass of foam." The waitress had to give him a patient lesson on how a proper German Pilsner is poured and why the head is essential. A tourist at Stonehenge in the UK was overheard saying, "I don't get it. It's just a bunch of rocks. My kid could build something more interesting with Legos. Did they run out of money before they could finish it?" I was on a flight from the US to Spain. A woman sitting near me was looking at a map. She turned to her husband and said, "Oh, look, honey, Mexico is right next to Spain. I didn't realize they were neighbors. Maybe we can do a day trip to Tijuana while we're in Madrid." Her husband just nodded and said, "Good idea." An American was trying to pay for a coffee in a small village in Italy with a $100 bill. The barista politely refused, as he had no change. The American got angry. "What do you mean you don't take it? This is American money. It's the most powerful currency in the world. You should be happy to accept it."